guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today on Let's talk about The Wilderness Years. Now in this series we have done all 26 seasons of classic Doctor Who, and before we move on to the modern series, and I lose like half of my audience. I kid. No, I don't. Let's talk about The Wilderness Years. And I have to mentally remind myself that the Wilderness Years doesn't just mean the 90s, because typically when I think of the Wilderness Years, I think of the 90s. I have to remind myself that it actually covers like half of the 2000s as well. It's pretty much, just to keep it easy, 1990 through 2004. Yeah, I know the beginning of 2005. Let's not worry about details. But basically, for the most part, 1990 through 2004. This kind of 16-year, 15-year period. Where, of course, Doctor Who was not on the air. And it's amazing how Doctor Who still managed to thrive in some way. Not thrive where it was, in the mainstream pop culture's awareness, but to where it didn't completely go away. It found a way. Life finds a way. Doctor Who finds a way. Now, I think if you're going to talk about the Wilderness Years, the most obvious thing to talk about is the TV movie. That's kind of the main thing. If you had to have one thing that everything else radiates out from, it would be the TV movie, the 1996 movie, with Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, and of course Eric Roberts as the Master. And I like the TV movie. Is it flawed? Yes, it has its issues, but I still like the movie. First off, Paul McGann is fantastic as the 8th Doctor. He is probably the best part of the movie. I really like his Doctor, his look, his outfit, his personality. I like his sleight of hand tricks. I love when a Doctor kind of has their thing, and I love his sleight of hand tricks. I enjoy his sense of humor. I like the little romantic nature. I'm not a big fan of the Doctor being romantic, but he has this kind of... I'm trying to think of the word for it. This kind of romantic nature to him, this optimism to him that I definitely like. I like Daphne as Grace. I think Grace is a great character. I'd love to see Grace come back in the show. I'm sure that's problematic due to rights with the character, but I would love to see Daphne come back as Grace, or even Daphne just come back as another character, as a little to us, That would be great, because Daphne's great. I didn't really care for the character of Lee. Nothing with the actor playing, and he's okay. He's not winning any awards, but he's okay. And I know he also comes back in one of the audio stories from the Wilderness Years, Real Time. He's in that as well. And, which I like him better than that, actually. And I think Eric Roberts is a good Master. I've talked about Eric Roberts as the Master a lot. I'm not going to go into detail. This video is not for that. But I find his Doctor underappreciated, because especially if you can look at some of the stuff he's doing early on, there's a lot of nuance to how he's playing the Master. And even a couple things there at the end when they're talking. There's a couple little things he does that really adds to the character for me. And then I also love the brief time we get with Sylvester McCoy in the story. First, I love Sylvester's outfit. I love the 7th Doctor's outfit in the TV movie. And I can see why Big Finish uses it so much for their covers. It's a great outfit. And I like what he was doing with his hair at the time. It just looked mad scientist, Doctor Who vibe. It's just perfect. And I like the little bit of time we get with McCoy in the role. He's good. I love when he first wakes up and he catches that scalpel and he's like, whatever you're about to do, stop. He says that very like the Doctor there. I like that. He's just... It's not the best way for the 7th Doctor to go out. Like with other Doctors, I would have been okay. But Chessmaster McCoy going out like that just seems odd. But at the same time, it's kind of ironic, if I'm using the word properly, that Chessmaster McCoy would go out that way. It's kind of interesting. But I enjoy the TV movie. I love the look of it. The way it's shot on film. I hope they find the film elements one day. Or they figure out where they are. But I love the look it has since it was shot on film. There's no other piece of Doctor Who that looks the way the TV movie does. It's unique in that, and I love the look of this film. So I enjoy the TV movie, while admitting it has its issues. Now, looking at other stuff, I don't know what my voice just did there. You have like Dimensions in Time, which is not good. Not good. Now, I can appreciate Dimensions in Time. I think I've watched it twice. I know the first time it was not a good video quality. I think the second time it was better. I really would like a copy of Dimensions in Time with a good video quality that I could watch. I enjoy it more because I like seeing these characters again. I get to see Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor again, briefly, but he's there. I get to see the Brigadier working with the 6th Doctor briefly. And I like that because that's the only classic Doctor he didn't work with in the show, so I get to see that. I love seeing Kate back as the Ronnie again because I love Kate as the Ronnie, so I like Kate as the Ronnie. It's not very good from a story standpoint, especially since as someone who's never watched EastEnders, I'm not catching all of the jokes anyway. So there's definitely stuff I'm missing out on. But, you know, seeing John Pertwee in the role again, and Peter Davison in the role again, and seeing all the guest companions back, it's fun because it's nice to see these characters playing, or these actors playing these characters again. So I can enjoy it for that while admitting the actual short and story is rubbish. I really would have wished they would have done the Dark Dimension thing. I like the Dark Dimension. I've watched, you know, they've done, you know, there are people online who have animated the Dark Dimension, and it's a pretty cool watch. It's got its own flaws. It's certainly not perfect, and it is very 4th Doctor heavy. And I understand why other people might be, other doctors and actors might have been a little resentful of that. But I still liked it. It was neat. The Curse of Fatal Death. I liked that a lot. But it's really the first half with Rowan Atkinson as the Doctor. Cause I love me some Rowan Atkinson. Huge Blackadder fan. Huge, and I like Mr. Bean. I really like the Thin Blue Line, but I love Blackadder. I've got the Blackadder DVD collection. One day I want to get the Blu-ray collection. Love Blackadder. So I love the bits when Rowan Atkinson is the Doctor at the beginning, and him and the Master. The guy playing the Master is great, by the way. When they're having their back and forth, and then the Master keeps getting talked back into the sewers. That's pretty funny. Now, the second half, when the Doctor's constantly regenerating into other people, it's okay. It's not great. I mean, it's funny that it's happening. And it's how amusing that they treat him regenerating into a woman at the end as a joke, like the Sonic having 3 settings. And it's written by Stephen Moffat, and how it's treated as, you know, a piece of comedy when you look back at that now and you're like, huh. But the second half to me is just kind of, but that first half is funny. And then, of course, you have the start of Big Finish, and you really get the 8th Doctor getting some love and attention here. You have, you know, the Sirens of Time, which is, but then you also get stuff like Storm Warning, which I think I'm finally calling the right name. You get the Sword of Orion, one of the best Cybermen stories. Of course, you also get Stones of Venice, which isn't very good. And I can't remember when Chimes of Midnight came out, so I'm not quite sure if that's Wilderness Years or not. Great story regardless. So you're getting this chance to expand on the 8th Doctor, which is really nice. His version of Shada came out during this time, and I enjoyed the 8th Doctor version of Shada. It's not my favorite. That would be the episodic 6-part version on the season 17 box set, but I still enjoy McGann's Shada. Some things I do like better. Some of the design and the Flash audio, the Flash video they did, the animation they did for his Shada, looks really good. I like some of the designs for the backgrounds. It really makes the ships look very alien. I like some of the designs for the aliens in Shada and how Shada looks. The guy playing the Professor is voicing the Professor well. And the Professor even gets a couple more scenes to be action-y. Like when they confront the main bad, Skagra. And Skagra realizes the Professor is Sally Avon. It's not just he immediately gets stuck. There's a little battle of the wits with him there that kind of works better. But it's a good performance from McGann and Lala. Yeah, I enjoy his version of that. So I enjoy some of the 8th Doctor stuff I've experienced from Big Finish from the time. We also had some other animations. We have Death Comes to Time, which is different. It is out there. It's not bad, but it's really different. It is very adult. That and Real Time is like that. Real Time is another one that I like some of it. I don't care for some of it. Again, you had the guy who played Lee back playing a different character in this one. He's pretty good in it. The Cybermen are written really well and drawn really well. I like their design in this, how they're done in the animation for it. Their design is really creepy. And the bit when the one woman goes through like the portal and immediately comes out as a Cyberman, like a half Cyberman, like a hybrid Cyberman. but you realize, you know, time passes differently, and so she was over there for a long time, probably being converted and tortured. That's chilling stuff. And then this one has Evelyn Smythe. Is that her name? I like Evelyn. I like the fact that Doctor has like an older companion like this. And I like Evelyn, that no-nonsense approach she has. And then there's a little bit at the end that I liked. I didn't see that coming. I really liked. I wonder, I don't know if that ever got resolved. I don't think this story ever got a sequel. So I don't think that ever got resolved. But it's quite interesting. Both of these stories, Death Come to Time and Real Time, are both very adult by Doctor Who standards. Like, you know how season 7 is much more adult than seasons 8, 9, 10, and 11. Well, all 5 of Pertwee's seasons are good. Seasons 8 through 11 have a more family-friendly feel, whereas season 7 feels very adult. Possibly the most adult season in classic Doctor Who. It and 13, and arguably 14. This feels even more adult. This really feels like Doctor Who grew up. All of the people who had watched Doctor Who as a child are growing up at this point. People who had started with the show early in the 60s to 70s. They're adults now, and they want to do their Doctor Who. They want Doctor Who to grow up with them. And now that they kind of have the keys to the kingdom, because the modern series wasn't out yet, they really took it in this darker, more adult tone, which is a mixed bag for me. Some things I like about it, some things I don't. Real Time and Death Comes to Time have a really weird feel to them. It's like, I enjoy them. I don't think they're the greatest thing ever. They're certainly not the worst thing ever. But they just tonally feel very different from the TV show, Classic Who or Modern Who. They have their own unique, different tone to them. And it's much more darker, and it's much more adult with the imagery going on there. And then you also have some of the spin-off stuff, like Downtime, which is really good. You had a lot of this because, of course, a lot of the characters belonged to the individual writers, and so they would, you know, allow people to use their characters for a fee, I'm sure. And so you had characters like Sarah Jane and the Brigadier and other companions from the 60s and 70s showing up in these kind of spin-off shows like Downtime, which I enjoyed Downtime. I don't like everything about it, and I kind of don't like what they do with Victoria's character. But I do think it's great that Deborah and her dad, Jack, got to be in another production of, you know, sort of Doctor Who together. I don't really care how I don't really like, rather, how it brings back Trevor's, but I think it's neat that, you know, father and daughter got to do basically a Doctor Who thing together again. That's pretty cool. Although I have to remember that while Jack is her daughter in real life, Jack didn't play her father in canon in the show. Because there's some times where I'm like, she's looking for her dad in the show, and well, you found him. I'm like, no. My mind, every now and then, will be like, wait a minute. But it was a good production. It's always great to see Nicholas Courtney back. I love him as the Brigadier, always. And then, of course, we have our introduction to Kate Lethbridge Stewart, who, of course, we would get back in modern Doctor Who. And I kind of like that it kind of canonizes or makes canonical the events of Downtime. And again, while I don't like quite what it does with Victoria, it is a neat thing. I like the fact that they brought Kate into the official canon. That's pretty cool. And I like the actress playing Kate in Downtime. She's really good. And then you have some of the other spinoffs I haven't always seen. I know you had the Probe spinoff with Carol and John. I've never seen that. You had the Auton spinoffs as well. I think they did 3 of those. I haven't seen them, but I'm aware of them. I loved the Return to Devil's End when some of the cast and crew from the Daemons went back to that location and you just kind of toured around reminiscing about the Daemons. I have seen that. And I enjoyed it, much like the one we got on the Season 8 box set with Katie Manning and John Levine. But the 90s one's really nice because you had so many more surviving actors. You had John Pertwee there, and of course Nicholas Courtney. I believe Barry Letts was there. And of course John Levine was there. It was just really nice seeing them walking around. I enjoyed watching that video and watching them talk about making the show. It was really nice. I feel like I'm forgetting one I really wanted to talk about. Because again, there's a few of these others I have seen. I've never seen any of the Stranger videos. I know they have that spin-off series called The Stranger with like you know, of course, Sophie and Colin and Sylvester. And I know that a lot of times you had the actors who played the Doctors showing up as various characters and stuff like this. And this must have been when Sophie had her hair short, because I think she's in some of the stuff with short hair. It's an interesting time where people were doing whatever they could to keep the show alive. You had the BBV productions, you had the real-time productions, doing what they could to kind of unofficially keep Doctor Who alive. And then, of course, after the TV movie, Big Finish coming along. You also had the novels. You had the, the Virgin novels and then the New Adventures. Doctor Who novels also seem pretty adult. Just a few I've read from this time, like Face of the Enemy was an interesting read. Not a bad read by any means. It was a good read, but it's very different. Matter of fact, the Doctor's barely in it. He just kind of bookends it, with a lot of it having to do with Unit, the Master, even Ian and Barbara come back. And then it actually has ties to one of the Pertwee era stories, which it doesn't full-on reveal until toward the end of the book. It kind of lets you try to piece it together ahead of time. It's an interesting read, but definitely a very different take on Doctor Who. A Doctor-like book. Don't know if I'll ever reread it, but it was certainly an interesting read. And then you have some of the books like Blood Harvest, which I wasn't overly keen on. It was interesting, but I wasn't overly keen on it, even though it was written by Uncle Terrence. Works as basically a sequel to State of Decay, but it feels different. And then you had Goth Opera, which works as kind of a sequel / prequel, depending on how you look at it, to Blood Harvest. And I liked Goth Opera a lot. I think Paul Cornello wrote it, and I really enjoyed that one. I had a lot of fun with it. It had some nice guest characters in it. Like there's a male and female vampire in it. They're a couple, and they're a lot of fun. I actually really like them. So I found that one a really good read. But again, very different from what you would get from classic Doctor Who or modern Doctor Who, which themselves are very different things. These novels, from what little bit I've read, and I've read some more I can't quite think of right off over the years, they have a very different feel to them. You also have New Frontier, I think is the name of it. But that one is just dreadful. Like I couldn't finish it. I got a certain ways into it, and it was so bad I just couldn't finish it. I remember I was actually working. My boss needed to go down to the coast, and while he was inside working, I was just reading, killing some time because he didn't have anything for me to do, because I kind of work as a personal assistant. And I couldn't. Even then, I'm like, man, I'm bored. I'd rather just sit here and mess with my phone. I can't read this anymore. It was dreadful. Dreadful book. Luckily, that's the worst one I've read, or attempted to read. The others have been better. I still need to read the novelization of Human Nature. I have it, but I haven't read it. I've tried to start it a couple times. I can't get past the first page, which it isn't exactly a glaring, endorsement of it, but that's just me needing to get on with it and try reading it, because I have a copy of it, and I love the TV version of it. So yeah, the novels also have their own unique flavor to them, to be honest. Their own unique tone. They feel very different from classic Doctor Who, while also feeling very different from what we would get in modern Doctor Who. Very adult. I feel like 90s Doctor Who, I'm doing it again. I feel like Wilderness Years Doctor Who is the most adult Doctor Who has ever been. Because when Modern Who came back, they still realized, okay, this is a family show. We have to keep it, family oriented. I feel like, again, the closest Doctor Who as a show has ever gotten to being, adult, for a whole season at least, is season 7, season 13, season 14. The modern series has had individual episodes that are pretty creepy and stuff, like Midnight, for example, or even Blink. But I don't feel like they get as adult and dark and tone, or let's say as close to an R rating as the Wilderness Years do, because I feel like the Wilderness Years are them with all the censorship taken off. And they're pretty much like, okay, do what you want to do. We don't mind. Kids probably aren't reading these. The people reading these are the people who were kids who grew up with the show, and that they could just do what they wanted. And that's how it feels to me. I feel like this is the most adult version of Doctor Who is the Wilderness Years, 1990 through 2004. So it's an interesting time to go back and look at. I mean, I lived through it. I remember being really excited when the TV movie came out. I actually taped it. On my VCR. I had that blank tape for a couple years before one of my friends recorded over it. But I remember I watched it many, many times. Been really excited about it because I was the only one of my friends who knew what Doctor Who was. That was kind of funny. I had other friends who were also Star Wars and Star Trek fans, but nobody else watched Doctor Who. It was only some of my family that also watched Doctor Who. But really, the TV movie was really my only experience with the show in the 90s at the time. Everything else I've pretty much experienced since the modern series has come on. So everything else I've been experiencing just retroactively in a sense, with just the TV movie being basically my 90s Doctor Who, other than occasionally managing to get access to watching some of the classic series that I might not have seen before. So the Wilderness Years, definitely an interesting time for Doctor Who, for better or for worse, or for both in some cases. I want to know what you think of the Wilderness Years, what you like about the Wilderness Years, what you didn't like about the Wilderness Years, what just plain is perplexing to you about the Wilderness Years. Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. That helps me keep the bills paid, and it's certainly appreciated. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney, Sam Venning, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support as I do the support of all of my patrons. It's very much appreciated. A link to that's down in the description. My P.O. box is also down there if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. Maybe there's something from the Wilderness Years you think I should take a look at. I'd love to get a copy of Downtime on DVD if anyone ever wanted to send it. So that's down there. Check it out. I also have a link to my Amazon wishlist down there. My Amazon UK wishlist is down there as well. Links to both of those. Most importantly, thank you for watching.